What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 19 of the Rolling Over 40 podcast. My guest today is another training partner of mine. He is a brand new blue belt. He got injured around the time that I met him, and he disappeared for a few months, and then he came back. He is also a world traveler, and I want to know a lot about that. That's the first thing we're going to talk about. And he is a very nice training partner. He's always a pleasure to roll with and drill with. And I'm super happy to have him here today and learn more about his skills and techniques so that I can destroy him next time we roll together. Now, welcome to the podcast, Mark Tran. How you doing today, Mark?
Hey, Connor. Thanks for having me. Doing well today.
Awesome, man. So you are a brand new blue belt. Why don't I know we're supposed to not talk about jujitsu yet, but I mean, you're a brand new blue belt, man. I kind of want to talk about that first. Okay, you've been a blue belt for, let me see, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? It's very recent. I know that much.
Yeah, I'm pretty fresh off of it. It's been about 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay. So how many times have you trained since you got that blue belt?
Probably, I want to say 10 times.
10 times. Okay. And how has that been? How did it feel the very first time you stepped on that mat and you tied that blue belt? Was there a moment when you put your belt on and you were like, oh, that looks different?
Yeah, I think I felt really, really good getting it. It was a pretty long journey to blue for me. Um, and yeah, I feel like the rolls are definitely getting harder. There's new attacks that other blue belts are doing on me, like wrist locks. So more to think about. But yeah, overall, it's been pretty good.
That's awesome, man. So 10, yeah, I've heard from, because you got promoted around the same time as some of our other buddies in our cohort, JP, Chris, Mike, the other Mark, I think maybe one other that I'm not thinking of, but I've heard,
Yeah.
yeah, those guys have been telling me that it is a very different experience rolling as a blue belt, especially with a more higher belts around than it was as even a four stripe. White belt, that's been your experience too?
Yeah, I feel like some of the white belts are definitely ramping up and going harder on me.
Even the white belts, huh?
Yeah, I feel like the higher belts are definitely going harder on me. I kind of feel like white belt was a bit of like the kiddie pool in a lot of ways.
Okay.
No expectations from you, and now, yeah, people don't go as easy on you anymore.
Right. I think it was my fourth episode I recorded with this guy, Jeremy, and he's a purple belt, and he was saying that white belt is the best belt. And kind of ever since that episode, it's like, okay, I really need to enjoy every moment of being a white belt because it's every other belt is a whole different experience, and you can't ever go back
Hmm.
to being a white belt, and it's a belt that you should really enjoy. So, would you say you did? Did you enjoy every moment of being a white belt enough?
It was good. It was good overall. Felt like I really saw different stages at each stripe. Um, and now I feel like it kind of resets. I feel like I'm starting all over again and just realizing that there's still so much to learn and starting at a new level at blue.
It's crazy because I've heard black belts say the same thing. I think it was Dr. Rob when I talked to him. He's like, "Yeah, when you get a black belt, it's like you're starting over." So uh, it's crazy to think that every time you get a belt, you're going to be pretty much starting over, and you're experiencing that right now, which is crazy. But at the same time, it's freaking awesome. Congratulations that you got that
Thank you.
blue
Thank
belt,
you.
man. And it's been a long journey for you. But before we get to the journey of jujitsu, let's talk about the journey of Mark in general, because I know we know so much about one another, but most of what we all talk about is jujitsu and training, and that's how we
Right.
know one another. So who is Mark Tran outside of the gym when he's not wearing a gi? What do you do for a living? Are you from SoCal originally, etc.? Say as much or little as you want about that, and then we'll talk about your travels.
Yeah, so I am originally from Minnesota, actually. I grew up there, have lived in a bunch of different cities in the US and all over the world. Um, and by day, I am a software engineer at a tech startup.
At a tech startup. Okay, like what kind of tech startup is it?
Yeah. So, we're on the smaller side. We're about 90 people over here. Um, and we make products for other tech companies. So it's a infrastructure product. You can think of, if you're starting up a new product company, you will need a way for users to log in to your application. And so we provide some of the underlying bits that help with authentication and a bunch of other features as well.
Wow. Okay. I'm already kind of lost with the terminology because I don't know much about software engineering. But you did say you've lived in a lot of different cities and states and also a lot of different countries. So not only have you traveled a lot for pleasure and whatnot, but you've also actually lived in a lot of other countries. Like which? So let's talk about that. What countries have you actually lived in other than the States?
Yeah, I've been traveling for most of the past decade. So about 10 years ago, I was living in New York and I ended up quitting my job at the time and went on vacation in Southeast Asia. Visited a bunch of different countries over there. I was only intending to be on vacation for like a month and a half and ended up just traveling kind of continuously for about 3 or 4 years
Oh my God.
before coming
Okay.
back. Yeah.
I thought you would. I figured you were going to say a couple months, but 3 or 4 years. All right. So, okay, countries, man. I did that. I did a similar thing in Southeast Asia, but only for which I was proud of this, but before. But now I did it for about 5 months of just China, Laos,
Mm.
Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. So I assume you covered all those countries and possibly more.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Vietnam was kind of my home base for a bit. Um, and then would do kind of 6 months in Taiwan, in South Korea, a few months in Japan. Um, I did the same in Hungary and in Budapest
Oh, wow.
and Czech Republic, and spent a bit of time in South America as well, in Argentina and Brazil.
And those were, but that was a different trip, I take it, right? Or was that all part of this 3 or 4 year world travel? Was it all together?
Yeah, it was kind of the same thread, I would
Okay.
say. Yeah.
Okay, so so South America. So the main bit of traveling I've done in South America was it started with, well, okay, let's start with just Latin America in general. I did a study abroad to learn Spanish in Costa Rica for 6 weeks, followed by 2 weeks in Guatemala, followed by a semester in Ecuador, and I've also been to Peru twice on two separate occasions for a month each. And that's the extent of Latin America for me, which, you know, I don't think is, which is okay. I'd like it to be more. But you said Argentina and what was the other one?
In Brazil.
Argentina and Brazil. And how long were you there?
Yeah, probably, let's see, maybe like 6, 8 months over there.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you, when you went to these places, it sounds like, okay, when it started, you didn't have much of a plan. And at what point did you, like, and when you went to Southeast Asia, at what point did you realize, oh, I'm going to stay here for a while? Or was every day just flying by the seat of your pants, like, maybe I'll go home tomorrow? And
Yeah.
were there jobs in there too? Were you getting the occasional odd job?
I was working at the time. I was working remote, still as a software engineer, and I kind of discovered like remote work at that point. I'd never really considered it. I'd always been in an office before. Um,
Now, sorry, what year was this? Because I'm thinking COVID and all that.
yeah, this is like 2014, 2015. Yeah,
Oh, this is long before COVID. Okay, so okay,
yeah,
long before COVID's long before remote work was like normal, like it is now. So okay, so you were
totally.
kind of a
Yeah.
pioneer of remote work, and you're working. So you were working like most of that time while you're also just traveling around and doing all that.
Yeah, yeah. I was working, uh, still working with some startups that were mostly based in the U.S. So there were time zone issues. I'd be up at night pretty
Okay.
often. especially from Southeast Asia. But yeah, staying busy with work as well.
Okay, so why did you decide to stay? Like, do you remember, was there a point where you're like, you know what? I can keep working from here. I don't want to go back to the States. I want to keep traveling and working at the same time. Like, there must have been a period of time where it's like, I'd rather do this. I think I'm going to do this for a while.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty just like curious by nature. When I got over there, everything just kind of hit me. Like everything was felt very alien and foreign. And I really just wanted to keep exploring. I'm super into culture and food and going to like museums. I was connecting with people in the tech community in those countries and kind of learning about what businesses were people starting, what problems were they solving. And yeah, there was just endless things to explore. And each time I would hop to a different country, it would be, going totally deep in a totally different culture.
Right.
So yeah, I was just really fascinated by learning about the differences, and comparing and seeing how people approach things in different places.
Now, how many of those countries' languages did you learn to speak?
Yeah, I would say not very well.
A few
Yeah,
words of each, a little bit
a
here and
few
there.
a few words, enough to like order things,
Okay.
to haggle a bit, numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, people would speak to me in English, and I would be able to get by.
Okay, that's good. So Vietnam was I loved Vietnam when I was there. I thought it was a great place to visit. Obviously, living there is a probably a completely different experience, but we started in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City,
Yeah,
and then I just traveled up the coast. It took about a month. And then I spent about a week in the Hanoi area. That's the northern city. For our listeners who don't know, that's the main big city in the north. And I did one of the funnest things I did was Sapa from Hanoi, right?
yeah,
So Sapa, for our listeners who don't know, it's generally a train ride, like an overnight train ride, into kind of the underpopulated area in northwest Vietnam, right?
that's right. Yeah.
Um, and at that point, I'd already been traveling for 5 months, and I'd been on the little circuit of what everybody does. So this was the end of my travels, and I'm like, I want to do something kind of different. So I saw that everybody was taking that train, and I'm just looking at a map, and this was 2005, and I was looking at a map, and I'm like, but there's another way to get there, and it would take a little longer, but it seems like it would be kind of an adventure. So I decided to go for it, and that was one of the more adventurous parts of the whole 5 months of just traveling because there were hardly any tourists or travelers where I went because everybody just goes to Sapa from Hanoi, the direct train route. So it took about 6 days,
Wow.
and I'm taking a bus to a different city along the way. I had to get a phrase book. I had to learn about the bus schedules, even though they don't really stay on schedule. I got food poisoning. Yeah, it was a while. I mean, that wasn't my favorite part, obviously, but just being in a place where most of the time, I was the only tourist around, or me and the other person I was traveling. That was it. So I'd be walking around these little towns, and people are just looking like, "What the heck is that a tourist over there?" And it was a wild experience. So being in those super remote parts was probably in general. I did that. I did a little bit of that in Laos as well. Kind of off the beaten path. So did you have some adventures like that, like off the beaten path type? I would assume with all that time.
Yeah, definitely. I had like a motorbike that I would take around or
Oh,
rent
sweet.
and go to smaller towns as well. Yeah, it's gorgeous up there as well. Just the mountains and peering down to like the rice paddies. It's so cool.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Vietnam, right? So you were there. You said you spent quite a bit of time in Vietnam,
I did, yeah.
um, and then Hungary. Tell us about Hungary. I don't know any. I've never been to that part of. I guess wait, Hungary is Sorry, listeners, I don't know stuff very well. Hungary's Europe. Is that Europe?
Yeah, Europe,
Eastern. That's Eastern Europe,
kind of,
right?
yeah, Central, Eastern-ish Europe.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I spent most of my time in Budapest. Really beautiful city. I had some friends that moved there from the UK, and so there's a really good scene there. A lot of younger folks, really good food and bar scene, and yeah, it's just like really cool to explore.
Okay, so that was after Asia?
That was yes. I did go back to Asia after that. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So it was Asia, a little bit of Asia, Hungary, back to, and then I assume Czech Republic was part of the Hungary thing, or was that later as well?
Yeah, they're a short hop. So
Okay.
I went and checked that out as well.
Okay. Czech Republic. So, I mean, and this was all you said 3, 4 years of Asia, Europe, and Latin America. That was
That's
all in the
right.
same 3 or 4
Yeah.
year period.
Yeah.
Okay. And how were Argentina and Brazil?
Pretty yeah, I mean pretty different. I I had taken like some Spanish in like high school, so it was like a little easier to get around
Okay.
there. Argentina, I was in Buenos Aires
Hmm.
mostly. Um, Also a great place for, like steaks and wine, and everyone
Hmm.
like has dinner at like midnight there, and we'll kind of
Oh,
like
wow.
mill around till like early morning and just
Oh,
just
wow.
hanging out. So
That's different.
I really like the pace there. It's kind of like this fusion of Latin America, but of a bit of, there's a lot of European influence there as
Okay.
well.
Okay, cool. And then what about Brazil? I assume you were training there. I'm just kidding. I don't know if you were. I don't
I did
know.
not know.
Okay.
Yeah, I went over to Brazil for Carnival a couple times in Rio.
A couple
Um,
times. Wow.
yeah, yeah. Uh, Yeah, craziest parties I've ever seen. They
Okay.
have like these giant floats during Carnival that are massive and intricate, and people party just from you literally wake up at like 6 a.m. and get started for a week long in Rio for Carnival, and it goes all day long.
Oh man, I don't know if I would I don't know that there was ever a time in my life, even in my 20s, where I would last for like a week long party like that. But I guess you rallied. Were you hanging in there with the folks?
I definitely rallied. I took some naps in there. It developed some strategies for going all week long.
Okay, I bet. A friend of mine just went to Mardi Gras, and he came back and he was talking about this new product on the market that you can buy that helps prevent you from getting a hangover.
Hmm.
It's like a patch. I don't know much about it yet, but he said he put it on during Mardi Gras, and yeah, he was not getting the headaches or even like the. Basically, you can keep drinking, and it kind of helps you stay in that buzzed state before you start feeling crappy.
Yeah.
And yeah, he swore by this
Oh,
product.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you haven't heard of this?
I've tried, there's another one on the market. I think it's called Z Biotics.
Okay.
And it's like a little vial. It's a shot.
Okay.
Um, and it's supposed to do the same thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I've heard it compared to like, if you're like lactose intolerant and you're taking like lactate, it'll help break down the
Okay.
dairy.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, so this kind
I
of helps break down the alcohol.
I think so. Yeah, yeah.
You haven't tried it?
I've tried it. Yeah.
Oh, and how did it go for
It
you?
I felt like it just delays everything. Like you're
All
not
right.
hungover like the next morning, but then 2 days after, you're like hungover for the next 2 days.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know if that's any better. I don't know if I'd rather be hungover for 2 days, 2 days later. That doesn't sound
yeah,
great to me.
yeah.
Okay. So were you at any point during all these travels doing any form of martial arts?
I was not. I wish I had discovered jujitsu.
Okay, so you hadn't discovered it. And
No.
then, and sorry, and then what year were you, like what year roughly did you come back from all these travels and kind of settle in the States?
Yeah, so I came back around I want to say like 2019. I moved back
Okay.
to New York. Yeah.
Back to New York, 2019. And then a year later, COVID hits. And how
Yes,
did that?
yeah.
So when COVID hit, I'm curious how that affected you being a world traveler. Was there any part of you during that was like, thank God I made it back before this happened? Or were you like, I kind of wish I was stuck in an awesome place like Argentina or, you know,
Mm,
I don't know, Taiwan or whatever?
yeah. Um I think at that point I was like pretty sick of traveling from doing it continuously
Okay.
for a few years. And yeah, I was definitely glad to be back in the US at that point.
Okay.
Um, and so yeah, it was good. I was in New York when all of that went down, and actually ended up moving to Austin.
Okay.
Kind of
So
in
Austin came next. During COVID?
Yeah,
You moved to
during
Austin?
during COVID. Yeah,
Okay. Why? Why'd you move to Austin during COVID?
yeah. So New York at that point kind of locked down pretty hard.
Right. Right. Actually,
And
New York was one of the it's kind of one of the first places in the States where it really started. If I remember correctly, wasn't New York one of the first spots where it was like, oh, this thing's happening in New York?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. I remember
Okay.
like I think I got COVID pretty early as well.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but I was fine.
Okay.
And yeah, so New York locked down, and I was just kind of like stuck in my studio apartment in Manhattan.
Okay.
Which was like it was a nice little box, but it's like a 400 square foot box in Manhattan, and
By yourself, completely by yourself.
yeah, by myself. Nothing was open. I couldn't hang out with friends. Like restaurants weren't open.
That
And
sounds terrible, man.
yeah, and at one point I was just like, why am I paying, so much money to just be like in
Yeah.
isolation
Yeah.
here? So I packed up and I moved to Austin.
Okay. And how'd that go? Like, were you happy with the move when you got there? Things were more open, and Austin's a pretty cool town. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Why didn't you stay there?
Yeah, Austin's awesome. That's actually where I started doing jujitsu.
All right,
Um,
here we go.
and yeah, so I got there, things were open. I was doing like very Texas things. I was like I should learn how to shoot a gun since I'm in Texas.
There
So
you
I
go.
I took like a gun course and like met a bunch of cool people at like the gun range. Um,
I'm from Texas originally, so
oh really?
from Midland. Yeah, I don't know if you've even heard of it. It's like west. It has an
Is that West
airport, but
Texas?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's right between El Paso and Dallas.
Okay.
So
Cool.
that and there's a lot of space between El Paso and Dallas. So, but I mean, I've been to Austin a bunch of times, but not really as like like when I was a kid. You know what I mean? So, but
Mm.
I know it's a pretty cool place. So Texas things. You took a gun course. Did you like barbecue and all that?
Yeah, we definitely barbecued. Had friends who had like smokers in their backyard, and we're like doing like queso on the smoker.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, and then this is a perfect transition, Mark. So that's where your jujitsu journey started. So why did you start training jujitsu when you started?
Yeah. So I also got introduced to UFC through people I met at
Okay.
the gun range.
Okay.
I had never really, I was aware of UFC and had never really watched it. But I would hang out with them and they would watch a fight and they would be like, oh, armbar,
Right.
oh, triangle. And I would be like, that looks interesting.
Right.
And yeah, a couple of them had trained before
Okay.
and had convinced me to check it out. So
Okay.
I was like, I'll give this a shot. So I ended up training around I think it started around 2021, June 2021 is
In
when I
Austin.
in Austin, yeah.
Okay. And had you had any interest in martial arts at all before that? Or, I mean, it sounds like you were more into world traveling, like embracing every culture that you go to, probably the food, the experience, all that. But like, you haven't mentioned much about athletics or sports or martial arts, but was there anything before that you had wanted to that you'd been into?
I had never really done martial arts before. My dad got me into like karate when I was a kid. It never really stuck. I just kind of wanted to like punch and kick things as a kid, and they had us like memorize things and do katas.
Okay.
And I was out after like 3 months of that, I think. Yeah.
That's similar to I did Taekwondo, but it's the same thing. It never stuck. I didn't really learn anything. I wish there had been jujitsu when I was a kid at that time, and I probably would have at least learned something and maybe
Uh,
enjoyed it. But okay, so not much before that. Your friends said, "Hey," it convinced you to give it a shot. And what was your experience like at that gym when you started in Austin?
yeah. So when I got started, there was actually no intro class, no fundamentals class.
Hmm.
So I remember on my first day, I walked in and there were maybe a handful of white belts, and everyone else was, blue and a bunch of upper belts there. And they just kind of threw me in.
Oh, God, I get it. Like, did you were rolling with them like pretty early on?
I was rolling day one with like brown belts on day one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, and how did that didn't scare you away though? I guess it was a good experience overall.
It was definitely tough. Yeah, I probably, got submitted like 30 times in a single day
Okay.
training at that point. They kind of pulled like a blue belt aside and were like, "Hey, this is your buddy now, and he's
Okay.
going to teach you a couple things."
Okay.
But there wasn't like a structured, curriculum. No one taught me concepts of like, this is how you play guard, this is how you pass.
Okay.
Um, it was kind
Yeah,
of,
basic concepts.
yeah, yeah. So that went on for months, actually. I kept coming back. People would give me like tips here and there, like this is a knee cut. You should hold my legs.
Okay.
Think about going around my legs, and I would kind of like pick up the concepts like one by one. But I wish there was a more structured program. And kind of looking back in hindsight, that was probably not the best way to get started.
So you said you didn't think that was a great way to start, but I mean, was it overall a welcoming atmosphere where the instructors like you kept going back? I mean,
Yeah.
were you hooked from day one? Do you remember, or did it take a few tries? Were you, on the fence? How'd that go?
Yeah, I think what kept me coming back was definitely the community. Everyone was like super nice and trying their best to teach me technique and concepts. And yeah, they would show me like triangles, and that was kind of like my goal. I'd seen that like in a UFC fight, and I was like, I want to learn how to do that.
Okay.
Um, and it took me a while to actually get there, but people would kind of give me tips and let me practice on them. And so I thought that the community aspect was really, really, really good.
So that's what kept you going back then, like the desire to learn this and that, and feeling like you had a good community there, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. It's funny you mentioned triangle because man, I remember fighting out of one of your triangles on me. It was, and after you did this to me, I tried to do it on somebody else, and pretty much, I was surprised how, because I honestly feel like I'm a pretty slow learner with all this stuff. Maybe everybody feels that way, but so what you did was we started. I think I was in, I don't remember. I started in your guard or something, and then you instantly went to spider guard, and
Mm.
then from there you just yanked me in to a triangle, like boom, right? And it was like 5 seconds after we started, and it was like, oh shit! And I remember being like, oh my freaking god, how did he get me in this so fast? And I was lucky enough to fight out of it, but I mean, I feel like if you had, I don't know. It could have easily gone to a tap probably really quickly. I don't know how I got out. I think I was just lucky because I think maybe probably a second longer and I would have tapped. I remember, but I was able to like it took me like 2.5 minutes to somehow get a hand in, and I was pretty uncomfortable. But it was awesome, and you taught me that. And then either the next class or something, I did that to somebody else. But the same thing happened to where that's the closest I've ever gotten to make somebody tap with a triangle. And I
Mm.
had this dude stuck in it for like, oh God, at least a minute, minute and a half. And then the buzzer rang. But the whole time I'm like squeezing and pulling and I still don't know the angles very well, uh, but you just reminded me of that. Um, and yeah, the triangle, man. Well, you've gotten a lot better at since way back when. But let's talk more about that time period. So, how long were you training there, and when did you move to SoCal and all that?
Yeah. Yeah, I trained there for about a year. So after about 3 or 4 months there, they actually started a fundamentals class.
Oh, okay. So they did start one.
And yeah, I think they were just kind of waiting for like more white belts to join.
Okay.
And so they ended up starting that up, and I learned so much more from that class.
Oh, so
Um,
so you actually, oh, hold on. So you were training for a few months. Then they started a fundamentals class, and then you went to that fundamentals class. I didn't know if you'd already be past that by then.
no, no, I would say that I don't think I learned that much from those 4 months of just getting submitted like 30 times per class. I developed really
Okay.
good defense. That was the
Right.
thing.
Okay. I was gonna
I
say you had to learn something, and I would assume it'd be good defense, or at least,
yeah,
breathing and just being calm when somebody else is demolishing you.
yeah.
I'm sure that went a long way though, but in terms of technique, yeah, I guess you couldn't really practice too much.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it is all the meta things of like, learning to stay calm. To this day, I think I still have pretty good escapes.
Okay.
All I would do is get submitted, 20, 30 times per class. I would go home and study the escape for that thing.
Oh,
And that was my
okay.
focus for the first few months.
I see. So you would go home and like get on YouTube or wherever and then study the escape, and then would you so were you having success with that though? Like if you went home and studied the certain escape, were you starting to be able to do that from the studying of it outside of class?
Yeah, it was a lot of late stage escapes.
Okay.
So what do you do when someone already has your arm in the arm bar? Someone
Okay.
has you in a triangle.
Okay.
So yeah, I learned how to fight out of those positions.
Okay.
And I still do. Even if someone has like a locked in arm bar, I will, like kind of grab my thigh and
Uh-huh.
then get their legs off of me and push my way out of there.
Wow. So you feel like you're still using the same escape techniques that you learned way back then?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Because I feel like I'm just only going to learn better stuff than I know how to do now. Um, so how did the fundamentals class go? When you started learning those fundamentals, yeah, how did your training change from there? How do you feel like it went?
Yeah. I I feel like I finally kind of understood the concept of like passing at that point. Like what is like a toreando, like all the basic stuff of like knee cuts. It wasn't until, like month like 5 before that even like started like kind of clicking.
Okay.
Um, So that started setting up like a pretty good base for me.
Okay.
And yeah, so 4 months without fundamentals, and then probably 7, 8 months with fundamentals, and I was still going to both classes actually.
So how many classes a week were you training back in
I
that
was,
time?
I was, I was doing 3 or 4 days a week, and then 2 classes a day. Yeah,
Whoa. Three or
yeah,
four. So that's 6 to 8 classes per week that you're training.
yeah. I was going hard at that point.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, and this was all still in Austin. So when did the move to SoCal happen?
Yeah, so it didn't happen for a bit after. Yeah, so after Austin, I traveled a bit more. Actually,
Oh,
I
here we
went.
go.
I spent the summer in. So I moved out of Austin, kind of May, June, 2022.
Okay, got it.
So yeah, I spent that summer in Minnesota visiting my parents. I actually got my niece, my nephew started in jujitsu.
No
And
way.
so, yeah, I was taking them to class like every day and training at the gym in Minneapolis there for the summer.
Oh, is that right? And you were training there too?
Yep. Yeah, I would take them to the kids class, and then Um, and yeah, the structure of the classes at this place in Minnesota was pretty interesting. They had much more of a uh, kind of a game-based approach for their fundamentals class. It's
Okay,
like, I don't know, kind of trendy right now, I guess, like ecological,
sure.
where you don't really teach people techniques. You kind of give them different games to play.
Okay,
Um,
and then it's kind of like you just kind of develop like I don't know
yeah,
physical routines that you kind of end up using.
yeah. They'll kind of throw you into it, and the idea is kind of that jujitsu should be intuitive. So you do a
Sure.
round with no instruction, and you might start in like De La Hiva or something, and single leg X, and then they'll pause, and they'll be like, okay, think about keeping their feet apart, keeping their legs apart. Don't let them lock up their feet. And
Okay.
then you would do it again and kind
Okay.
of pick that up, and it would kind of like progress over the class. And
Okay.
by the end of the class, you would kind of roughly understand like the mechanics of like different positions.
Okay. Wow. And that was for the kids and the adults?
Those were for the adults. The kids class was kind of maybe it was also more game based. Uh, that worked, wrestling moves and things into the kids' curriculum.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, when you say intuitive, it's like, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's, for me, that's what, a goal that I have is for all this stuff to just become more intuitive, like I've talked about on previous episodes. It's like, it's really cool when I will just notice that I'm in the right position. And then I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but there'll be a moment where I'm like, oh, this is a Delhiva. This is where I'm supposed to, not okay. It's not the perfect thing, but it's like, oh yeah, this is a position, and I'm in the right position, or this is a single leg X or whatever, and not necessarily knowing till I get there, which is kind of cool. But obviously, I want to get to the point where I'm doing it on purpose and deliberate and knowing what I'm doing in the process. But so Minnesota was a couple months, and then you came to SoCal, or did you go to I don't know, Antarctica or
I spent a little time in Vancouver as
all
well.
right. Why Vancouver?
Trained.
Is this just
I
more traveling for fun?
Yeah, just more traveling for fun.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to check out Vancouver. Heard great things about it, and I can confirm Vancouver's pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a little training up there. Yeah,
Okay.
on and off.
On and off. Okay.
Yeah,
So not that consistent.
not that consistent. No, no.
Okay. And then
Um,
was it so you came here from Vancouver?
and then I moved to SoCal from Vancouver.
Okay. And why SoCal? Same thing. Like, "Oh, I'm gonna go check out SoCal. SoCal, I've heard some good things.
Yeah, I had heard that there were great jujitsu gyms here. When I checked them out, wanted just like better climate as well. Um, Having like trained in Austin where it's like, I would walk into the gym and it'd be like 110 degrees outside
Ooh. Yep.
and
Yep.
no AC in the gym
Oh
there, by
God.
the way, just two
Why?
giant
Why?
fans.
Okay. All right.
Um, I don't know. I've heard maybe there's a lot of places in Brazil that do it that way, and they were like trying to like
Okay.
recreate the environment.
Authentic
Yeah,
jujitsu style Brazilian. Okay, interesting. So what year was it that you moved down here to SoCal?
yeah. I think it was, yeah, 2023, 2022, late 2022.
Okay, so 3 years ago, roughly, and then after how long? It's interesting because it sounds like this is the first move you did where jujitsu was in mind, where it's like I want to not only am I moving for fun, but I want to train in a good spot when I get there. And did you already have your eyes on our gym of One Jiu-Jitsu in Tustin, or did you discover it after you got here?
I actually started training somewhere else when I moved here.
Okay, where was that?
I started training at AOJ, um,
What does that stand for?
Art of
Oh
Jiu-Jitsu.
yeah, yeah. Okay, where at?
Yeah, so that's in Costa Mesa, and I still live pretty close to that place.
Okay,
Um, yeah, it's pretty well known place. They're well known for being very successful with competition.
okay,
And having great competitors there. So I want to check it out. I really like just like the aesthetic of the place. Um, and it was cool. Everyone there was cool. There was good instruction. Uh, but I felt like they were a little like too successful. Um, the mats were always like packed. There were a lot of visitors there. So if on any given night there might be like, 5 to 10 people dropping in from out of town. And so the community there was uh, a little like harder to get close to
mm-hmm.
as like a white belt hobbyist
Mm-hmm.
just walking in. So yeah, so I decided to try out some other places. And so One Jiu-Jitsu is the second place I tried.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really blown away by the community immediately. Um, I still remember the first day I walked in, both Jiva and Wellington like noticed me, like being like the new guy, shook my hand, introduced themselves. Um, and what really impressed me was I walked in the second day and they remembered exactly who I was and my name. And they're like really, really good at that. They know every person's name out of, there's so many people that train there. And they're so like attentive about giving you feedback. And I think that's pretty rare. I've trained at like a handful of places now, and you don't get the same level of, I think, like attention to detail and feedback that you do at other places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I keep hearing that from everybody I talk to and everybody I've had on here who's trained anywhere else. Is that I mean, it's we train at a pretty unique spot, and you've trained in a lot of places. You've trained in Austin, Minnesota, Vancouver, Art of Jiu-Jitsu, Costa Mesa, as well as here. So that's saying a lot. That out of all the places you've trained at, that this one is as unique as someone like me who's never trained anywhere else, as unique as it seems to be for me, because I had a pretty similar experience too, which I've talked about before on this podcast, just walking in the door and how warm everybody is. And I mean, you don't see the kids class because you don't have kids, and it's similar there, even though the volume of kids is mind blowing. Like our classes are getting pretty packed, but there's easily twice as many kids or more on some days, and I think most of the instructors know almost every kid's name. I mean, they knew my kids' names really quickly. Yeah, it is pretty impressive how good they are at that, and it means a lot. So that's I guess it didn't take long after starting at our gym for you to decide I think this is the place for me for now. But Mark, I can't help but be a little worried hearing your whole story that you're just gonna ditch us one of these days and go live in I don't know, in Zimbabwe or something, and travel again. So not that you need to give that away, but are you here for a little while, or are we going to be saying farewell to you soon?
Yeah, I think I'm here for a bit. I'm definitely getting older and slowing down a bit. I guess I didn't mention, but I am 39, turning 40 this year.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. It is kind of a theme of the podcast that there's supposed to be people at least near 40, so you definitely qualify. And you're turning 40 this year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. And so you are here to stay for a little while then. You're not just
Yeah,
teasing
this
us
this
then.
is this is starting to feel like home. Yeah.
All right, that's good to hear. And so you've been training with us here at One for a couple of years, but let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask, when you walked in, when you started, you had already had experience. So did they throw a couple of stripes on your belt when you started, like two or something?
No. Yeah, I walked in no stripes. The other place that I trained at didn't do stripes at all,
I see.
in Austin. And then, I had bounced around training like 3 months here, 3 months there, and you don't get stripes as a
Yeah,
visitor.
sure,
Um,
sure.
so yeah, I was kind of, feel like I was starting from the bottom at one.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing though. Honestly, if it were me, if I were to move right now and decide to go to another gym, I mean, I would not. I would probably tell them, yeah, I've trained a little bit, but I don't need. Please, just give me a white belt. I don't. I don't. I've got my one stripe right now, and it's like, yeah, that's definitely enough for me. But I would want to start at the bottom if I went somewhere else. So let's talk about your. Why don't we talk about, yeah, that injury? Because again, it happened so quickly after I met you that
Yeah.
I remember either I forget if I saw you right after it happened or anyway, to give the people context, um you were training for a competition, and during training is when you injured your arm and you were out for a couple months. Am I getting most of that right?
Yeah, so I was training for my third competition and
Okay.
I broke my elbow a week before the competition.
Okay, and how did you break it?
So we were doing a training camp on Saturdays. Um, and we had a bunch of folks who were kind of like first time competitors, or had done like one. And so I was a part of that camp, and there were 4 sessions, and so we were on the last one. And at the end of class, we were doing kind of like a simulated match. It was like 1v1, and everyone else was watching. So I was up, and I went with my partner, and we were doing stand up, and he got a collar drag on me,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up sticking my arm out as he kind of pulled me to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and all the force went into my palm and into my elbow, ended up breaking my elbow.
Now, for our fans, we have a lot of fans that write into the podcast a lot. And like, can you explain some of these details a little more? So, a collar drag is when, if I'm going to collar drag Mark, I would grab his, like your collar area right here, and then I would kind of pull you so you fall forward. And then I kind of sit on my butt to the side of you as I do that. That's kind of a collar drag, right?
Yeah, so for collar drag, you're getting a sleeve grip with your hand to say you're
Oh,
right-handed. You're getting sleeve grip with your left hand, and then you're getting a cross collar grip
mm-hmm.
with your power hand, and then you're kind of stepping aside and almost like yanking or whipping them to the ground. So it's very
Right.
powerful. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. And so, but your instinct to put your hand down, that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Um, you are not really supposed to to post your hand. I think like instinctually you do it. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were supposed to do that. All right, good to know. What does
Um,
it mean though to break your elbow? Like what is like here's the like the joint? Like what exactly
yeah.
happens?
So it was a pretty small fracture. There's like a radial head at
Yeah.
like the corner of your elbow, and so it was just like that part that broke.
Okay. So like the end of the bone, that like the part of your elbow that like sticks out, like the end of that bone had a fracture on it, like that.
Yeah, not even like the part that sticks out, like right above that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Ugh, all right. And then, okay, you were out for how long?
I was out for 3 months. Yeah.
Whew. Okay, yeah, that's a long time. So let's talk about when you were out for 3 months. Did you like when it happened? Did you? Oh yeah, when it happened, did you feel it and know something was wrong right away? Uh, because a lot of people I talk to on here, it's like, well, I didn't feel anything until like an hour later, kind of like with my rib and whatnot. But how was that for you?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I felt like it all happened in slow motion.
Hmm.
I I remember my training partner getting the cross collar grip, and I remember thinking, "Oh crap, I'm gonna get thrown." And
Hmm.
so I didn't know what the defense was, so I didn't know how to react. But I was like kind of preparing to get thrown. Um, yeah, so I instinctually put my palm out, and I just like felt all of the force like through my palm. I remember at that moment. Um, and I heard a crack.
Oof.
Um, and so I rolled to my back. Um, and everyone like rushed over and was like hovering over me. Um, I don't remember it actually hurting at all. I don't remember the pain. I remember just like being pretty calm though, and I was like kind of observing my body react to it. Like I remember like my vision going like fuzzy. I could feel like my heart like beating faster, probably like releasing adrenaline. And I had just thought I didn't know what was wrong. If it was broken, I thought like maybe like dislocated. Um, yeah, I was just kind of wanted to stay still, and
Hmm.
they used my white belt and turned it into a sling, and then kind of got
Hmm.
me up, and I ended up going to the hospital and getting X-rays
Right. That same day.
that same day. Yeah, yeah, right after that.
Okay. And then you got the news that day, I take it as well. Like, okay, here's what happened. You're going to need, it's going to be a couple months before you're back on the mat.
Yeah, doctor told me it's broken. He gave me a sling. He sent me home and told me to hang out for 2 days.
Hmm.
Um, and I was like, I was like, well, wait, what? You want me to just hang out with like a broken elbow?
Yeah.
So yeah, they couldn't get me back in until like a Tuesday. So I got re-x-rayed and saw a specialist, and he told me that I was gonna be out for at least 3 months.
How'd that feel at that moment? Because you were training for a competition. You're pretty into jujitsu
Yeah.
at that time. So it must have hit pretty hard.
I I felt like I went through like, like the 5 stages of grief. I was like, I was definitely like in denial. It didn't hurt at all.
Oh, okay.
So I was just, I was like, I'll be back in like 2 weeks.
Oh boy.
At that point, I was training like 4 or 5 days a week too, like for
Mm-hmm.
competition. So
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even really like imagine stopping at that point. And my doctor kind of had to, he was like, "Hey, Mark, listen, you broke your elbow. You're going to be out, and you can't go back." And yeah, it kind of hit me at that point. And and yeah, and I went home, and during that first month, I definitely went through all the other stages. It was like angry, and then kind of like replaying the situation, like I should have done this. Um, Definitely some lows there. That was like kind of like a hobby, and also like where I was getting all of my exercise as well. So I had to like figure out how to stay active.
Sure. I mean, hobby exercise, but I mean, also like fulfillment. I mean, like the camaraderie, like the whole
Totally, yeah.
thing, right? And I mean, yeah, not to steer the conversation, but that's where I'm at right now. Like I was telling you, with the current situation I'm in, unfortunately. But yeah, it's hard to be away from once you kind of get bitten by the bug and you start getting all that satisfaction from it. It's hard to be out of it for an extended period of time. So was how good did it feel? How good did it feel to come back after those 3 months?
It was great. Yeah, it was. Everyone was really nice when I was out. People were texting me. Like some people like didn't have my number and like found me on like LinkedIn and were like
Okay.
checking up on me. Our instructors were texting me as well. So yeah, everyone was just really uh, encouraging me to get well, and yeah, I felt really really good to come back.
Good. And did you was it noticeable though? Because like for me, every time I miss time, it's like, oh man, when I get back, people are gonna be like leaps and bounds ahead of me compared to, where they were before, and that's just plain gonna suck. So, is there any getting over that feeling? Or does it just you just gotta just
I don't
drop,
think so.
bury that
Yeah.
and go back in?
Yeah, I think you just need to work through it. I definitely was super rusty. And was like trying to go light, as I was
Mm-hmm.
coming back
Mm-hmm.
too, and got smashed, and people were trying to go light on me too, like they knew I was coming back from injury. I would say like a month in, I was still rusty, but they stopped going light on me, and I was
Mm-hmm.
just getting smashed. But
Mm-hmm.
it took a bit to get my skills back.
Sure. Of course. Do you feel since then, have you it's been at least a year or so since that happened, since you came back, I would say.
Yeah.
And what do you feel like you have developed in terms of sweeps, submissions, passes, takedowns? All of them. That you are specializing in. If you want to share that, or feel free to keep it a secret. You don't want people to know. But yeah, what do you feel like you're specializing in?
Yeah. Well, I've been focusing on takedowns lately. I actually still have a little PTSD when it comes to doing like stand up and takedown. So I've been pretty careful. I've been pulling guard a lot. But I actually just started doing judo classes,
Oh wow.
like once a week.
Okay.
So just trying to build confidence on my feet.
Okay.
So yeah, hoping to get to the point where I'm much more proficient on with takedowns there.
Wow. Good for you, man. I feel like takedowns are something I really struggle with. I mean, I feel like it's gonna take a long time for me to feel confident to like go for a single leg or go for a double leg or those ones especially, but it's funny you say that because I just interviewed Jason, judo Jason. That's what I
Oh,
call him.
cool.
Jason, ear guards Jason. Because he's been doing judo for a while. I think he's a certain belt. I don't know. We talked a lot about judo in the episode coming out in like 2 weeks or so. Yeah. So judo classes, and do you feel like you feel like you're getting better at these takedowns because of the judo classes?
Yeah, I'm learning so much from every single class. I think, like jujitsu really set me up, and we do like takedown stuff and like learn a bit about judo fundamentals. Uh, so I feel like I'm picking it up extra fast because of that base and having been exposed to it before.
Wow, that's
Um,
got to be a good feeling to feel like you just started judo and you're picking it up extra fast. That's got to feel good.
totally, yeah. Yeah. At the same time, I feel like judo is like super hard.
Yeah.
Uh, the workouts, it feels like much more of a workout, and there's a lot of like up and down.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of footwork and like kind of like explosive movement to like shift someone's body weight.
Okay.
And that's like kind of the opposite of like my jujitsu game where I'm like pretty chill.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that it is tiring and exhausting because on the days where we are doing takedowns, like if that's like the thing we're drilling and you're just doing, even if it's just, drilling time takedowns, but it's still, normally when we drill things like, okay, if I'm in somebody's guard and we're drilling, some technique from guard or something like that, like you're already on the ground. It's like the drilling isn't that it's not, it doesn't wear you out, right? But on those few times where it's been like, I don't know, some sort of takedown drill, I mean, you're already exhausted before you've even rolled. So yeah, I could see that. I could see that
Absolutely,
being
yeah.
pretty tiring with judo. So what about like submissions? What are some submissions that you feel like you've hit a lot of times that you've kind of gotten good at? Are there any that you're focusing on lately that you want to get better at? How do you feel about submissions?
Yeah, I would say in terms of like the rest of my game, I've been working on my bottom game, my guard, a lot. I play a lot of like collar sleeve and spider guard, lassos. I love omoplatas
Okay.
from the bottom.
Remind us and me, frankly, I know the phrase, but I don't think I really know what an omoplata is. Can you describe it?
Yeah, so omoplata is when you use your legs against someone's shoulder
Uh-huh.
as a shoulder lock. So
Uh-huh.
you're throwing your knee behind their elbow and
Uh-huh.
then coming around, so you're both um, looking the same way,
Uh-huh.
and then
Uh-huh.
you're sitting up and doing a shoulder lock from there.
Right. Okay, right. It's some sort of to kind of an overview. It's some sort of arm lock with your legs from bottom, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I kind of know that much, but I don't know. Like if somebody, like if I went tomorrow and Jiva's like, okay, start in omoplata, I wouldn't know really how to start there. So, okay, but that helps. So omoplata, you really like that. Have you had some success with that?
Yeah, I use omoplata a lot as a sweep. It's a submission or
Okay.
a sweep.
Okay.
Um, a lot of my game is optimized to go up against people who are stronger and who outweigh me.
Okay.
I am about 145 pounds,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I was gonna
so
say most people do outweigh you, I would say.
yeah,
Even
most
me,
people
and I don't
outweigh
outweigh
me by
many
quite a
people.
bit.
Right, right. So I weigh you about 10 pounds because most people outweigh me too, but I don't outweigh that many people. But yeah, I hear you. Yeah, because I mean, my game is probably similar design. It's like if I'm ever gonna be up against anybody, most of those people are more than 55 pounds. So for you, I can see that being a similar thing. So no, that's cool, man. That's awesome. And what about sweeps?
Yeah, so I like using omoplata as a sweep. I really like tripod sweeps or like variants of tripod sweeps. There's like a
Mm-hmm.
sickle sweep,
Okay.
where you have their ankle with your hand, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have your foot on their hip, and then you're kind of doing like an arc with your other leg, and it kicks out their other other foot.
I
And so
see.
that's also a thing that
Is
helps
that
me
what
take
we were
on bigger
practicing?
opponents.
I don't really know the tripod. You know, one of the last classes I did before I had to take this break I'm on right now was we were doing like grab the lapel, like kind of like Della. No, 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 not Della Hiva, but both of my legs are. I'm on. You're standing. I'm on my back, and I get
Mhm.
both my legs under both your legs, and I grab your lapel, and I kind of like push and pull, and then sweep you that way. I don't think that's. I don't remember them saying tripod, but I don't remember the name of that sweep either. Is that similar at all?
We did do a class on, it was from De La Hiva to tripod sweep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was there for that. I just don't remember the phrase tripod. Okay. Okay. That's awesome. What about
Yeah.
let's see. So do you feel like you're better at submitting from the bottom or from the top?
Yeah, definitely from the top.
Okay.
I try to shoot arm bars and triangles and mostly get flattened out from
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Um, yeah, my top game is I rely a lot on speed passing.
Okay.
So trying to like find angles, trying to prevent people from getting grips on me. I'll like kind of like run around them or like step over their legs.
Okay.
And I'm always trying to get to north south. That's like my favorite
Really?
attacking
Oh.
position.
Why would
Yeah.
you want to be in north south instead of, I don't know, side control?
Yeah, I feel like it's easy for me to pin people from north south. I
Really?
can
Okay.
almost solely focus on pinning their shoulders.
Okay.
And when you're in north south, you're very far from their hips and their
Yes.
legs.
Yes.
Um, and if I'm going up against someone who has like 50 pounds on me, I'm going to be pretty far away from that.
Right. So sorry, let me give some context. The listeners are going to get mad at me about that. So no, what's north south is where if I'm on my back and Mark is he's in top position, but we are at, we're facing opposite directions. I guess that's the best I can describe it. Um, okay. Wow. I would never like. I feel like when I've got side control, that's like I'll try to go to mount from there. I will rarely try to go to north south if I have side control. So, uh, you're giving me something to think about. I just don't. I feel like I just don't know what to do from north south. I don't know. I don't know what to do from anywhere. But north south is somewhere. It's like I wouldn't even know where to go from there. It's like okay, I'm in north south. Now what? So
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite attacks from north south are the north south choke. You can if their neck is kind of up, you can just grab their neck and then
okay,
sink down.
okay,
I really like the bread cutter choke.
okay,
That's also something we did in class maybe a couple months ago, where you're pinning one arm, trapping one arm, and then you're putting kind of your hand over their throat, grabbing the lapel, and
okay.
like doing yeah, like if you've seen like a paper cutter or a bread cutter,
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Oh,
Um,
got it.
and then I like getting kimura from north south as well.
Okay. Jeez. Wow. You've got a lot of experience getting submissions from north south. It sounds like that's wow. That's awesome, man. I can't wait till I can say that about any position someday. Someday. So, what is something that has surprised you about jujitsu since you started training?
Yeah, I would say maybe probably just like the process of learning jujitsu itself. Um, I am sort of a big nerd. I do a lot of like research and like study online. I do that, for my day job in software engineering. And so I've tried to implement that in jujitsu as well. So I've watched like a lot of instructionals, YouTube content. Um, and what I found is that definitely helps, but you really need to combine it with drilling and developing a feel for moves and training it
Hmm.
into your muscle memory. So I think like the mistake when I got started with jujitsu was I spent way too much time like watching things and not enough
Oh,
time I would watch, in a week, like 10, 20 different techniques, and then get into the training room and try to like recall them,
That is a
versus like
lot of techniques.
focusing.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of, I was going to say, that is a lot of techniques to try to implement from watching videos all at once. It sounds like, yeah, I don't know if I don't know if that's the best way to go, but it sounds like you learned that quickly. But but I mean, now, do you still spend a lot of time now researching outside of class?
I would say my study is much more focused now. I'm really focused on reinforcing what we're learning in class.
Okay.
So, like for example, I think you and I were training. Uh, we were doing X guard.
Yeah.
So that week I went home and I studied like a course on X guard.
Wow.
My favorite site is called Submeta.
Sub
Um,
meta, like SUBMETA.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they have courses on, a bunch of different topics, but the way it's like organized is really easy to digest. So it's like 2-minute videos, 10-minute videos. It'll cover concepts, mechanics, entries, defense as well. And so for that week, I did kind of just like a few videos here and there, like maybe when I'm eating dinner or lunch, and then I would get into class and try to implement the things I learned from the videos, and try to give my training partner different reactions and try to reinforce the position.
Wow, that's very it's very admirable. I've never done anything like that yet. I mean, I go to class and I come home and I don't do anything jujitsu related until the next class. But that's yeah, maybe one of these days, because so many of my guests like you do that stuff, and it's like, man, I feel like a really bad student sometimes. So yeah, I gotta look into that, but we'll see. Shall we move on to the lightning round?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so feel free to, answer in as brief or as long as you want. And let's see, why don't we start with what's harder, being a white belt or being a blue belt? I think I know what your answer might be.
Definitely being a blue belt.
I know that, especially since you're a super fresh blue belt, right? Okay. Is there one bad habit you're trying to break?
Yeah, I am trying to do more takedowns. I always have the impulse. I've developed the impulse to pull guard, and I'm forcing myself to stay up there and to try to get it.
Yeah. Well, no kidding. You're taking that judo class too. But honestly, I would say I'm trying the same thing. It's like I don't want to. I want pulling guard for me to be a last resort, because I feel like if I get too comfortable with that, I'm never really going to do anything else. Um, yeah, yeah, cool. Let's say, what's the best advice you've received on the mats, or one of them?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm trained with like uh so I did like a jujitsu camp a couple times, and trained with like some black belts that are around my size, and they gave me tips about um like really leaning into your attributes.
Okay.
So I try to lean into being able to, especially if I'm going up against someone bigger, I can kind of like fit my knee in and escape. I can jump over them. I will like kind of hop over people.
Hmm.
So I play kind of I don't know, like a squirrely game, and it's and yeah, the advice they gave me was that you need to develop your own game, and what you learn in class is you're trying to learn fundamentals and concepts, but you need to eventually adapt it to how you play.
Hmm. What when you're rolling, what percent would you say you are generally rolling at? Like, let's say a competition, you're going 100. when you're rolling at our gym, the average roll, what are you going
Oh, I'm going like 5 or 10%. It's like,
5 or 10%?
yeah, it's like really low. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, that's just like your overall kind of energy output level. But I mean, like you're trying a little harder than 5 to 10% to actually get a submission and win the roll, or no?
Yeah, I'm generally like pretty relaxed. I will like do kind of I think a lot of like counter attacks. I'll defend, and then when there's like a opening, I'll go for that. That's also kind of a habit I want to break. Is kind of unleashing more like aggression in roles. And it depends on the day of how work is going, how tired I am as well.
Sure. And last one, what is your most hated position to be in?
Yeah, probably side control on a big guy. Yeah.
You just have a hard time fighting out of it?
Yeah. Yeah, if it's someone who really knows how to distribute their weight, super difficult for me to get out of there.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Mark, it's been an hour and almost hour and 15, almost an hour and 20. So good times, man. Anything you want to plug while you're here? Your business, your Instagram page, anything?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. I am at Mark Tran.
At Mark Tran. Follow him on Instagram, folks. And speaking of that, I did see one of your little posts from, it just took me back to Southeast Asia, and you were on the Mekong Delta. You were in a little canoe, and there was a beautiful canopy of trees around you, and just yeah, that the one I'm talking about, right? I think it
Yeah,
said
yeah.
Mekong Delta, and yeah, check out his Instagram page for all kinds of cool stuff, including amazing travel photos, as he is a world traveler. And yeah, bro, thanks for doing this. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to get back into the gym and drill with you and roll with you and everybody else one of these days. So again, thanks for coming on.
That was super fun. Thanks, Connor.
All right.